Hello everyone, welcome to the video lecture series on object-oriented programming through Java. So we are learning about static keyword. So in the last video we learned about what is the static keyword and how many ways the static keyword can be used. I have listed the things like static keyword is mainly used um, for effectively utilizing your memory, and we learned like static keyword can be used with variables, and it can be used to a block of statements, and it can be used for methods and for inner class also. So in the last video we learned about how static keyword can be used for your variables and block of statements. So if you are not using with a variable, how it will be working, and all these things we learned with a simple example. So in detail about the static keyword with variables and methods we have already learned in a previous video. Now in this video we are going to learn about how a static keyword can be used with the methods. Right, so the main uses of using the static keyword is to effectively utilize your memory. So what we learned in the last class is about variable. Now if you are making any variable as a static variable, then only once the memory will be allocated, and that will be commonly used by all the objects that will be created by that class. Right, and whenever you are using a static keyword for a block, then that block of statements will be executed only once for the first time the object is created for that particular class. That is what we learned. So in today's class we will be learning about this method, how the static keyword can be combined with the method, which is very simple. And regarding this nested class we will be learning at the time of learning the inner class. Okay, so for the time being we are not going to learn about this nested class. And now if you see, if you want to apply any keyword like static keyword with the method, then you can simply put a static word in front of that method name, then it will be connoted as a static method. Then what is the necessity of making any method as a static method? Normally whenever you want to call any method in a class, the normal approach we used to do is we need to create an object of that class, and by using that object name dot method name we used to call that method. But whenever you are making any method as a static, then that method belongs to the class rather than that object of that class. So what can we do? We can simply call that method without creating any object of that class. I'll tell you one example. Normally how we used to do is we used to call, I'll show you one example. If this is not a static, we have taken one class called student class, and here we have a roll number, name, and we have one static variable. Okay, now whenever, if this method is not static, let us consider, then if you want to call a change method, then how we used to call the change method? We need to create one object of student. Let us call that object as S1. The dot, we need to call that method as change. That is the normal approach. So whenever you want to call any non-static method, objects are important. But if you are making any method as a static method, then that method can be invoked without creating any instance of that class. That means without creating any object of that class, we can simply call that method. And also one more point here is static method can access the static members. Like in this example, if you see, this is our static member variable, and this static variable can be accessed in our static method, and it can change the value also. Normally the first value is given as Christ, and now I have changed that value as SOET. So that is also possible by using our static method. Right, so let us see one simple example how it can be done. You can take one class called calculate, and in that I have a method called cube method, which is a static method. Now this is taking one local argument called x, and it will be returning the cube of that one, where I am multiplying x 3 times. Okay, and now if in this main method, if you want to call this cube, if it is a normal method, let us consider, if it is a normal method, not a static method, then we used to create one object of this calculate, and using that object dot we used to call this cube method. But if you have made this cube as a static, then no need to create any object, simply use the class name dot cube, it will be calling that method. No need to create the object. Right, so if you write like this, then what happens? 5 value will be copied here, and 5 will be multiplied 3 times, and that value will be returned. So we are storing that value in the result, and we are trying to display that output. So the output of this code will be, you will be getting an output of 125. Got it? Only thing here you need to observe is we have made one method as a cube, and that method one method cube, and that method is converted as a static. So whenever you want to call this method, no need to create any object, simply we have created that object, we have called that object by using that class name dot method name. Okay, I'll show you some restrictions while you are using a static keyword. The first restriction is static method cannot use non-static data members. Or it should not call any other method which is not non-static method. We already learned one method can call another method, but whenever you are calling another method from a static method, that method should also be a static method only. You need to understand that one. A static method cannot call non-static methods directly. If they want to call, they need to create the object of that class, and then only they can create. And also it cannot use the non-static members also directly, but if they want to use, they need to use the object name, right? And this and super cannot be used in combination with your static. I'll show you one simple example. I have taken one non-static variable. This is a normal variable. I have not put static, means this is a normal variable. Now you see our main method is a static method, isn't it or not? Because we are using public static void main. So why we are writing static? I'll tell you regarding that. I'll tell you. But remember, our main method is a static method. So what is told here? Static method cannot access non-static members directly. But if you are trying to access this non-static member directly, you will be getting a compile time error. Okay, but if you want to use this non-static member, what we need to do? We need to first create an object of this one, and object dot a we need to call. We need to use like that. So now the static method, whatever we have in our program, they cannot use our non-static member data members and non-static methods directly. If they want to use, they need to use the object. Now coming back to the reason why we are putting a static keyword in front of the main method, because if you are not putting any static method in front of this static keyword in front of this main method, always the execution has to start with the main method. Then what? The JVM has to create an object first for that main method. The JVM has to first create an object, and by using that object it has to call the main method. That will lead to an extra memory allocation. So to avoid that one, simply we will be putting a static keyword where without creating any object we need to call this main method. Always the Java program execution starts from the main method only. Now the main method has to be called without creating any object, because for the first time if you are calling the main method, no object has been created. So to achieve that one, we had made this main method as a static method by simply putting a static keyword in front of this main method. So here no need of creating any object to call this main method. That is why we have done this one. I hope you all are clear with this one. Right, so to save our memory and to call this main method automatically whenever you are running your program without creating the object, we had made this one as a static. That is the reason why we kept this static keyword in front of this one. Right, I hope you all are clear with this concept of adding a static keyword to the method, to our methods, like your normal method, user defined method, or the reason behind putting a static keyword in front of your main method also. Okay, so with this we'll come to an end of uses of your static keyword, how it has been used with all your variables, how it can be used with the block of statements and with the method. Let us all meet in our next lecture. Until then, thank you all of you.